We're missing people, but yeah. All right, good morning. I'm going to open the Committee on Commerce. And our intention is to go into executive session at the beginning this morning. I would like one or two more members here before we do so. So I'm going to put us into a recess for 3 minutes. And at 3 minutes, if they're not here, we will begin regardless. All right, we're in recess for 3 minutes. All right, Senate will come out of recess, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session, please. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, very good. So we're in executive session, and I'd like to consider 6 bills this morning. The first one is House Bill 98, and I don't know if we have a motion for 98 or if we want to have some discussion around House Bill 98. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none. Do we have a motion of ought to pass? All right, and I'll second that. All in favor of the ought to pass motion on House Bill 98, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. All right, and we have a motion for consent and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we are on consent. House Bill 150. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Fenton, thank you. All right, House Bill 150. This is one of the several homestead food bills that we have. And this one actually defines the equipment in a homestead food operation. Do we have a motion on House Bill 150? Seeing none, I'll make a motion about to pass. Do we have a second? All right, seeing no second, do we have discussion? There must be discussion. Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This and the other homestead operation bills, it was incredibly interesting.
Mhm.
It is absolutely a cottage industry that's happening in the state of New Hampshire. I didn't realize there was a list of only 65 recipes that could be used.
Yes.
I think that all should be perpetuated. I don't think this is subject matter that the Senate Commerce Committee has to pass on.
Okay.
A commercial blender or a regular blender shouldn't be something that the state dictates you can have or not have.
Okay.
I do think this is prime for an industry group that's, brought together by the cooperative extension folks or any of the other. This is New Hampshire. We have a lot of agricultural and a lot of agricultural groups in the state of New Hampshire. And I just don't think it's necessary for us to be dictating this at this level. It's things that they could work out. If it was a health and safety issue, I'm sure DHHS would alert us to that, and we should act. But I don't see the need.
Okay. So looking at this particular bill on line 5, it says a homestead food operation may use commercial kitchen equipment. So it's not a requirement necessarily, as I read this. It's more optional, and it doesn't state that you can't use non-commercial equipment in a homestead operation. So I hear your point. I'm just not sure this bill is that constraining, but
I would offer
Mhm.
that there's nothing in state law that prohibits them.
Well, that was my next question. Is there anything in state law that prohibits this? And I'm not sure there is.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think we heard in testimony that there was a single word in the DHHS FAQ, and that word was no. In relation to the question, the FAQ, that can you use commercial equipment? And they said the answer was no. And so they removed the word no, but the concern of the interested parties was that it still wasn't fully clear.
Yeah.
So that's why they came with the bill as a result of a recommendation of a study committee. So that was in my notes that was the reason for the bill.
All right.
So while the bill isn't maybe the most urgent thing we faced, it would help this community of home cooks.
Senator
if you will.
Bouchard.
I was kind of echoing that as well, because I remember they were just talking about they needed clarification and that they were very delayed in updating their website and making sure people had the information out in a timely manner. And this was just to help them do their job more efficiently and have clarification, according to my notes.
All right. Anything?
I would offer that is probably a great resource, FAQs from the state, and this could be handled in an FAQ.
Maybe so. Let me ask this way. Is there any harm in passing it?
I think it sets a precedent
Okay.
for, other than health and safety issues, for groups, maybe not this group, but other groups like this, to come back and I'm not sure how many bills we had this year already, lots of them with really important taxation, safety, the way people do business issues.
Yeah.
And how many other groups are there, like homestead food operations, that will be looking to the legislature?
All right. I hear that. All right. Any further discussion? All right. I'm going to try again and make a motion about to pass on this one.
I'm going to second it based on this discussion.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And we have it 4-1.
Consent.
Second. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And Aaron and I will take this one out, please. All right, we'll skip to House Bill 279, and this is the recipe situation. Do we have any motion on House Bill 279? There was no opposition, as I recall.
And I'll second it, if I may, Mr. Chair, just based
Yes,
on
please.
In listening to all the testimony and the one particular woman, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but she had very detailed information and handouts for us. This is really clarifying so they can really just do their job better and make a living. I don't see anything, there was no opposition. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't pass it.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, we have a motion about to pass. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, do we have a motion for consent?
So moved?
All right, all in favor of consent?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Senator Reardon, would you want to take this one out?
Sure. I'd
Okay.
love to.
In the event you need to, I don't see it happening. All right, so we've got Senator Reardon taking that one out. Next is House Bill 304, and this is regarding labeling requirements for homestead food operations. Is there discussion and/or a motion?
Ought to pass.
We have a motion about to
I'll
pass.
second it.
We have a second from Senator Rishardi. Any discussion?
I believe this is a health and safety issue for
Yeah.
particularly people with allergies.
Okay. All right, all in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, do we have a motion for consent?
So, second?
All right, all in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. We have it on consent. Would someone like to take this one?
Will.
Senator Rishardi. Awesome, thank you. House Bill 307, another one related to homestead food production. Is there discussion on 307? I don't believe we had any opposition to
We did not.
this one. No, we didn't. Thank you, Senator. All right, do we have a motion on this?
Ought to pass?
We have a motion about to pass.
Second.
We have a second. Senators Rishardi and Reardon respectively. Any discussion on this one? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Awesome. I will move consent.
Second?
We have a second. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Anyone like to take this one out? Senator Rishardi, you got it. All right, the last one that we'll act on today, I hope, is 371. And 371, again, had no opposition. And this one expands the definition of an occasional restaurant establishment. It's a pretty short bill. Basically, as you may recall, it indicates that food can be served on the premises or taken away and consumed off premises. And it allows this to happen no more than 4 days during a 28-day period. It used to be 30, which was kind of difficult. So this way it's once a week, nice and easy. Any discussion on this one? Do we have a motion?
Ought to pass?
Motion about to pass. We have a second from Senator Reardon. All in favor of ought to pass, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we have a motion for consent?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion from Senator Fenton, a second from Senator Rishardi. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's on consent. I'll take this one out here. All right, 225 was one that we initially had on our list for today, and I just want to speak to that briefly. So Senator Murphy and I talked about this at length a couple of times, and he's got an amendment that he thinks will make this a little more palatable, particularly to smaller businesses, those, maybe 150 to 100 employees. So I told him we'd hold off on this one until at least Thursday, maybe next Tuesday, so he can get the amendment drafted and we have an opportunity to discuss that here.
Okay.
So that's where that one will be. All right. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
All right. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're out of executive session and we are in recess until 10 a.m. sharp.
So
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we pounded right through, didn't we?
We'll miss you.
Oh, that's right. You can't be. Yeah. All right, I'm going to pull commerce out of recess, and we're going to pick up where we left off last week with House Bill 649. This is one of those places where, you feel like I ought to say, if you missed last week, here's what happened. Bring you up to speed on this week. But as a reminder, last week I put in place a 3-minute soft limit on the comments that folks had to make in the interest of trying to get as many people up here as we could, and we still fell short. So out of fairness and respect to those who were held to 3 minutes last time, I'm going to do that again today. We have about 45 minutes for this one. I think we'll probably be okay in terms of timing. But if you could, 2 things. Keep it to 3 minutes. If you have written testimony, please submit that to the staff and summarize your written testimony. Please don't read it. We can all read it as a part of our binders after it's submitted. All right? Okay, so let's see. I think we'll just go right in order, and we're going to start with Ms. Julie Smith. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In trying to keep with the 3-minute rule, I'll condense my thoughts by starting with going on record that I agree with every point of what has already been said last week in favor of today's bill. I also support all the rebuttals to the opposing talking points. Only one member of this committee replied to my email manually and invited me to an unhurried phone call. So I'll say a few things that weren't part of that phone call. One quick story of mine involved the check engine light in my 2006 Scion XB. I had one of those home diagnostic devices, and it threw the code P12. And I called the Toyota dealer in the Automotive Village, its seller. They refused to answer many of my questions, yet kept offering me a service appointment costing about $100 out of pocket. So I went to the ScionLife.com forums. Ultimately, my salvation was my friendly relationship with the shop that serviced my cars, because they also serviced all the company cars of my employer at the time. I was advised to call for a same-day appointment, if available, if the check engine light was off that day. It was an on and off check engine light situation. While happy to have been treated well by a particular shop, it still shouldn't have had to have been that way. Since much of this committee hails from places like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Maryland, many of you might not be familiar with the emissions E sticker, a $15 surtax and $19.90 on cars registered in the Nashua metropolitan area, a real shakedown in the name of clean air. While I'm glad that Third Reich-style targeting is long gone, I haven't forgotten the illogic of it. How much traffic in Nashua and resulting air pollution do you think came from cars registered from afar? The second city is a mecca of employment, commerce, recreation, and host to several miles of major highway going towards the 128 area. And speaking of 128, my dad worked in Burlington many years and regularly lectured to me as a kid, watch out for those cars registered in New Hampshire on Route 3 and 128. You don't want to get hit by one of them. After all, they don't force insurance in New Hampshire. So why isn't our state government saying, watch out for those cars registered in the 40 states without the sticker tax, because they might have bad brakes or whatever other issue making them unroadworthy? And on a security note, that is security to secure the gravy train, it wasn't long ago that the design of the sticker was updated. The year the change was made, I had a talk with the shop manager and learned all kinds of things about training and expenses involved in official inspection stations, making them current to the new sticker. Because this is, after all, the Commerce Committee, you should know that any time a business takes on a new or bigger expense, it gets passed on to the customer. Something else to think about is, why is there so much effort and resources going into fraud prevention? Because, excuse me, maybe.
We're at 3 minutes, so if you could wrap, that would be great.
Okay.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I'll finish with calling attention to the $49,000 that the New Hampshire Automobile Dealers Association's aggregate investment in the whole Senate, citing the last data I looked at. Let it be known that I object to their highest paid senator participating in this bill. Please vote ought to pass. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Neil Trindade would like to speak. Good morning, Mr. Trindade. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay. So please turn on the microphone and state your name and town you're from. Good
Good
morning.
morning, Honorable Senators. I'm Neil Trindad, owner of Neil's Laconia Garage in Laconia. I've had that business with my wife for about 19 years now, and I've been a certified L1 master technician for over 30. I sent a letter to the Senate. It was about 5 pages long. I worked really hard on. I hope everybody had a chance to see some of the things that I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about, including the disparagement of the repair technician that I believe is affecting the appeal of this critical trade. I'd like you to know I regret the use of the term scam in describing this inspection program. I don't think it's fair to this process. In the 30 years I've been inspecting vehicles for the state and the time I've spent researching this topic, I've come to believe this program has become self-defeating for a few main reasons. Some would like you to believe because the check engine light is on, this constitutes a serious environmental dereliction, and I believe has misrepresented this topic to the committee. I would like to point out that the vehicles of the last 20 plus years have multiple overlapping complex emission systems that can produce many hundreds of emissions-related failure codes, causing a vehicle to fail OBD testing, even though there's still a dozen or more emissions-related systems and designs that remain functioning. I'd like to point out that you could remember vehicles have only one warning light for a multitude of emissions components. Although we don't perform OBD testing on vehicles older than 20 years, I submit that most of their emission systems are still at least partially functional for the majority of their life. Some point out how critical this program is to protect the safety of the public. Are we really expected to believe that this program is responsible for saving untold amounts of people from tragedy just in the nick of time each year, when there continues to be no conclusive evidence that the inspection programs produce any real difference in safety statistics nationwide? Are we actually accepting the assertion that random vehicle component failures don't take place all year round because of this program? Of course they do. Yet incidences are seemingly non-existent as they appear to be unreported and occur without significant harm to the public. The same group of drivers will test the limits of safety, some out of necessity. The same mindset of drivers will continue to be proactive. It seems like this debate could go on forever. Everyone presenting cherry-picked statistics and cases and stories with their own spin and percentages. When sorting through it all, I would respectfully ask that the committee consider a few indisputable facts that cannot be spun. The amount of states that are participating in some form of mandatory inspection process continues to decline to nearly a third of what it was at the height of participation in 1975. After extensive review of the information available, I cannot identify any state that has reinstated an inspection process after its removal. I've also read that Texas's inspection program has been mostly dissolved as of the first of this year, and that Maine and Pennsylvania are also working on bills to end their programs. I submit to you, this time-tested change is the most valuable data that we could use to form a common sense assessment of the value of the vehicle inspection program amidst all these opinions and special interests.
Okay.
In closing, I believe time, technology, and bureaucracy have made this program unmanageable, unnecessary, and an unjustifiable burden to the people of the state. Please let personal responsibility get the credit it deserves and free the automotive technician from the degrading characterization that this program has fostered for generations. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Aubrey Friedman. Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Aubrey Friedman, I live in Bridgewater. I speak in support of this bill. I lived in California most of my life, and believe me, California does not miss a beat when it comes to mandates, and even they don't have it. So that says something right there, not to mention the fact that about 34 other states don't have the annual inspection either. Secondly, I've attached, and I'll turn it in, a report or an article talking about comparing the rates of car crashes, injuries, and deaths in states that have the mandate versus states that don't, and there is no significant difference. So why should we keep this program if there's no benefit to it? And then lastly, just a quick little story. A client of mine, he took his car in for his inspection. It was a little bit older car. It had a little nick on the windshield. And it had passed the inspection many times, several times before. It was not a new nick. Well, this time they said, no, that's a safety issue. You have to get a new windshield, almost $500. Now, he had the money, so it was just an inconvenience to him. But a lot of people, especially on the lower economic end, that is a big expense for something that was totally unnecessary. So we should think about that and just scrap this program once and for all. And that's it. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Pardon? No, you cannot. I'm sorry. It's not the way it works. If you've signed up to speak, you'll have an opportunity. Well, you can still. Yeah. At the end, I'll ask if anyone who didn't sign up would like to speak. You're welcome to come up at that point. All right. Christopher Rice, please.
Good day, Senators. Thank you for taking the time to be here this morning. Excuse me, a little ahead of the game. My name is Christopher Rice from Rochester. I own 1028 Towing and Recovery. I operate in the Portsmouth area. I handle about 7,500 calls for service with my single tow truck, and I'm taking the time out of my day now to come up here and testify on this bill. I signed in as neutral. On the personal side of me, okay, fine. You know, you want to do away with the inspection requirements. On the business side of me, I don't want to see it go away. Why? It means more work for me. I'm out on the side of the highway, and what I'm about to say is not necessarily relevant to the bill, but it's relevant to the overall situation. When a car breaks down on the Spalding Turnpike, south of Dover, the speed limit's 55 miles an hour. I have yet, in the past 3 months, to see a car do under 70. You try standing out on the driver's side, facing oncoming traffic, and cars don't move over. Cars don't move over for us tow truck drivers. I'm out there trying to do a job. In order for a broken ball joint to be loaded up onto my tow truck, I have to take the wheel off, which means my back is to the road, which means people do not move over. I get hit, I die. That's ultimately what it is. So we do away with the inspection program. We don't find that broken ball joint. That broken ball joint breaks down on the highway. I go out, I lose my life. I know it's kind of a roundabout way of thinking about it, but this is what we're dealing with. So that's why I remain neutral on the bill. A couple points, I watched the hearing last week, a couple points that I want to bring up that I heard from a few state representatives and members of the public talking about this is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. I worked for an automotive garage for the past 2 years, and the amount of people that came in, got their inspections, it's not a conspiracy. It's pure safety. It's keeping our roads safe. We use a lot of salt on the roads. I drive by the salt piles going in and out of Kittery every single day. We go through a lot of salt here in New Hampshire. That salt gets up into those cars and eats away at those joints and at those components. The other thing that another representative said was, oh, it's your birth month, you're going to get hit with a huge bill. Well, if you read the state law about inspections and registrations, you don't have to register your car in your birth month. That's when it expires. You're allowed 3 months prior to register and inspect your car. My birth month is February. I can register and inspect my car starting in November.
We're almost at 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'll finish up.
All right.
November. That means that I have 3 months before I have to do any work, before my inspection sticker runs out. You keep up on the maintenance of your car, you're good to go. Like I said, I signed in as neutral. Take all these comments with a grain of salt and make the right choice on whether this bill should go forward. Last point I would like to make is if there's any comments, I'd be happy to take them.
All right, Senator Rishardi.
Thank you for taking my question. I don't know if you can answer it, but I keep asking it because I'm trying to understand why all the states that did away with the inspection mandate car insurance, which we don't have. I'm just trying to find an answer, a reason for that.
I mean, I'm not in legislative work, so I couldn't answer that. But to briefly touch on that, insurance is extremely high on the tow truck side. I pay $2,000 a month to keep minimum coverage on my tow truck. And minimum coverage for state police rotation list, for local PDs is $1 million general liability plus $500,000 of on-hook coverage, meaning I put your car on my truck, your car is covered up to $500,000. That costs me $2,000 a month to insure my truck as a small business owner. So the start of the month, I have to pay that bill. Why we don't mandate insurance? Well, that beats me. I have 7 cars in my impound lot right now that between me and another company that don't have insurance on them that were involved in wrecks. And I'm sitting holding the bag for the cost of the tow because they got into an accident because their car was unsafe, didn't have an inspection sticker on it. So maybe that's something that we look at is mandatory insurance requirements. I don't know. I'd be willing to be part of that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. You have a good day.
Testimony. The next name I just can't read. I think it's Jeremy, and maybe the last name starts with the G or an S. Yes, yes, please come on up. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I think this is on.
It is.
My name is Jeremy Simpson. I'm in the support of this bill. This is the first time I ever testify at all.
Okay, well, welcome.
And I am in support of this bill because it's time to end this. There is no reason for it. There's been a lot of testimony about why we should not pass this bill. One of them saying that the inspection saves lives and stuff. That is not 100% true. You can have an inspection and your car can have a check engine light or a ball joint can be broken easily. There is also, you can bypass the oxygen sensor just by ordering this little spark plug extender, right? And all you do is drill a hole, put it in, only costs $1, just order it from Amazon, and it's public knowledge, you can watch it on YouTube. Anyone can look it up. Also, my final thing is, we don't have a problem with bad cars on the road. We have a problem with bad roads right now. You can have an inspected car, brand new ball joints, anything else, but all you need is one big pothole, your car is totaled. It doesn't matter what kind of vehicle you got. You can have a snowstorm, one pothole, broken. We have a lot of state roads too. I can tell you almost like 60% of our roads in New Hampshire are just not drivable. They're not vehicle worthy at all. So I just say we pass this bill. We try to figure out how to fix the roads because patching it up is only a temporary thing. All we need is a big snow plow, rips it right up. And try to fix the roads, try to do something, then come back to this another 10 years, and then we figure out what to do. And one other thing about is the e-waste. We have a huge e-waste problem, and we're going to have a huger one coming up in October, or a separate thing altogether. But we need to do something about the true recycling is reusing the same thing until it's completely break down. And for rot on the frame, well, you have to have tires done. You're not going to buy a machine to go over there. You have to go to a garage, and a garage can refuse to do it, due to the fact that they have to lift the car up. And that's when if they tell you you can't do it, that's the time to get rid of that car.
All right. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out. David DuPont. Good morning, Mr. DuPont.
Good morning. My name is Dave DuPont, and I operated a family-owned auto repair shop in Dover for many years. I'm an L1 Master Tech and an automobile and motorcycle inspector. Although I sold my business 2 years ago, and I'm retired now, and have no skin in this game financially, I felt compelled to come here today, as well as last Tuesday, to share my thoughts on how wrong this decision would be to discontinue the program. We heard testimony from 4 separate state agencies last Tuesday on the impacts of eliminating the program and its unintended consequences. These impacts are significant financially and legally, and no one in the room for or against the bill would disagree that the roads will be less safe or our air less cleaner if this bill passes. We heard testimony that the check engine light is a nuisance, that it shouldn't cause my car to not pass inspection, that it's expensive to repair, and that there's a significant fraud in the system. Personally, I've seen very little fraud, and if you look at the number of complaints that the Attorney General Office and the Department of Safety have on 1.5 million inspections performed in 2024, it would be clear to everyone that there is very little fraud in the program. The vehicles are quite complex, and a small number can be difficult to repair right in the first time. But the check engine light is more than just a light. It's telling you that the vehicle is polluting more. It's telling you that the consumer is not getting optimal fuel economy, and the vehicle emissions most likely are out of compliance. How is that good for New Hampshire? I also feel strongly that eliminating the motorcycle inspections will be deadly. I own 9 motorcycles, and I'm a motorcycle inspector. I shudder to think what's going to happen when some kid goes out and buys a used motorcycle from Facebook Marketplace and uses it with no inspection requirements. From pod tires to parts taped up on the bike, I've seen it all. Last Tuesday, I heard comments about troopers inspecting cars on the side of the road. This is not their job, nor could they ever take the place of a trained inspector with the lift tools and proper lighting. And as you heard from the last tow truck driver, how dangerous it is out there. If you ask a trooper what the consequences will be after they stop a car or respond to an accident with bald tires, it's going to be a tow. They're not going to release that car to go back on the road, and it's most likely going to be a ticket. How is that better than a technician or service advisor recommending tires to the consumer in a service bay? Let's hold off repealing all these laws, and we change the laws we have so that we adequately cover all the issues that the agencies and the consumers and industry experts have explained to us. There's been a lot of statistical data quoted at the last hearing, a lot of it contradictory. Please listen to state agencies and the vehicle inspectors and see the cars and know the issues at first hand. The other comment I'd like to make is Senator Ricardo, you had mentioned
You're at
about
3 minutes, so if you could wrap it up pretty quickly.
Okay, you had made a comment about what's it mean when I have failed brakes and failed tires. Tires, bald, poor traction in wet weather. It undermines the ABS system because the tires don't grip the road. The ABS system is going to keep activating, which means for longer stopping distances. Worn out brakes don't stop as well. And if the grinding is not attended to by the consumer, the brake pad can fall out and they can lose 90% of the brakes in the car. So there are significant impacts.
Okay.
But thank you very much for your time today.
Any questions? Senator
yes.
Brew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. DuPont, for bringing your expertise and letting us know you don't have a financial interest, but have a lot of expertise. So we really appreciate that. So I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you 2 questions about some of your testimony. You said there's a legal impact. So my first question, I have a follow-up, if I could. What is that legal impact to which you referred?
Well, the legal impact is that from the Attorney General's office, they're going to lose parts of their consumer protection right bills that reference the New Hampshire State Inspection Program. You also, when we bring a car in as an inspection station, we're held to a standard before that car release that it's either the vehicle owner is warned that it's unsafe, or even if we warn them of the fact, there's still a liability. If you remove the inspection law, that make it easier for people to be less vigilant about checking the cars out. But most shops take that really seriously, that, vehicles in their bays, and when it goes back out, someone could get hurt. And they're gonna make sure that car is checked out. And the standard for that is the New Hampshire inspection program. Just as the standard when a used vehicle dealership sells a car. The standard for whether or not that car is safe and worthy of sale without selling it as is that it passes a state inspection. So I think that there's a lot of complications that are going to arise if you just do away with these Department of Safety regulations.
Thank you, follow-up. Thank you. So we've heard so many requests about some of the quote nuisance things or nonsense things or various words that troubling, inconvenient things that aren't necessarily immediate life threats or immediate life safety to the operation of the vehicle or the safety of others outside the vehicle. So if you were looking at the massive manual or the massive list of things that you could fail for that may fall into those categories, what would you get rid of to make it easier for the consumer? What parts of those things, like some specifics, if I could call on your expertise to advise us on those matters?
Well, I think there's some regulations like fog lights. If a fog light's out, it doesn't pass inspection. There may be you'd have to check with the state police on tinting, because tinting is another issue that a lot of consumers have problems with. There may be some things on lenses. I think the regulations are older and they probably need to be rewritten to reflect the quality of the vehicle today and the safety systems in today. But so I think that should be looked at. And I think, again, that would be a reason to maybe send this not to expedient to legislature or table this for a little while until the experts can put something together. I will say one thing too. When you inspect a vehicle and you sign that sticker or that piece of work that used to be a sticker book, you are being held to unsworn falsification. So it's a misdemeanor if a technician signs off on something on a car that's not meets the regulations of the state of New Hampshire Department of Safety. So we're held to a standard, and no one wants to end up in court because they passed a car that didn't pass inspection. And so I think that the regulations should be looked at. And I think that we've got a great group of people that are trained and inspect cars. And by far, I've really experienced fraud, even in cars that have been brought to us that were inspected at other cars and they wanted a second opinion. I think the laws are just, but they could probably stand some adjustments. And the emissions part is real. I mean, we don't want these cars running around emitting more with the state's growing so rapidly and we're trying to maintain our quality of life up here. I think it's a mistake to tell people that don't worry about the check engine light. Yeah, that's a wrong precedent to set for the consumer and people who live in New Hampshire.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Your testimony. Paul Wolf, please. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I emailed all of you some comments from last week's session about some of the speakers, and I'm not going to go over them.
Okay.
You know that seven pages worth. I just have a few points I wanted to mention, kind of some major points. You heard testimony from both sides, for and against. Everybody has their own data. The opposition believes theirs, the proponents believe theirs. I think what we can't deny is that this is a money-making venture for the people doing the work. They certainly have a dog in the race, and I think I would suggest that they used the safety aspect of this to tug at heartstrings and your emotions to create all these accidents on the roads and dangers. Some even brought in the school bus thing, which the school buses are inspected by a totally different agency. The major issue with this program is the conflict of interest. It's obviously, we've seen that it's in their best interest to find work necessary or unnecessary. And the laws back this, the rules back this. you can't deny that. The other thing is it's mandatory. People will inspect their own cars. They don't need to be told to inspect their cars. They can bring it to, the bill does not rule out inspections. It just means that we're not gonna make them mandatory. As far as the malfunction indicator light goes, or the check engine light, that has been weaponized by this program. A hood latch out, AC refrigerant low would set that light. Those are some of the nuisance things that we heard from the previous speaker, whether Senator McGough said, asked about. Another issue is, from my understanding, and please pardon me if I don't know New Hampshire civics that well, my understanding is that the legislative bodies do not have the authority to modify or change the rules of the inspection program, that it's the Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules. They're the ones that have to do this, but they don't have accountability to the people of New Hampshire. My points. Without any doubt, the auto lobby you heard from has a self-serving interest in this. Jason LaCroix from Auto Fair, his opening statement, we are greedy, we want to make money. The conflict of interest program can be easily done away with. Either get rid of the law entirely or get rid of it and build it back up with some reasonable standards for it, and not have auto technicians do it. Have a separate department. Other states do this. They hire their own technicians and all they do is inspect. They don't do the work. There's no conflict of interest. I go on to say if any kind of work of program to be enacted, it shouldn't have the mill light or OBD2 connected to it.
We're 3 minutes.
I'm really close.
All right. Thank you.
Again, the law in order to modify it, it's gotta be, the rules, it's gotta be deleted. The House passed it 243 to 112. The union leader has a poll showing that 2 to 1 in favor of getting rid of it. New Hampshire doesn't have mandatory seatbelt laws. They don't have mandatory helmet laws. We don't have mandatory insurance. We don't want mandatory inspections. This is the live free or die state. Let's keep it that way. Please support the bill.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Any questions? All right. Senator Ricciardi?
Sir, I like to be very,
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I like to be very fair, so I just want to make one correction from the hearing last week. When Mr. LaCroix mentioned he's a car dealer and he likes to be greedy, he wants to sell cars. It wasn't on the inspection. And I just, in all fairness, want to make that clear.
Agreed.
Okay.
Taken out of context.
All right.
Thank you.
both.
Sure.
All right, Renita Sermon.
Hello, my name is Renita Sussman and I live in Meredith.
Oh, Sussman.
Yeah.
Looked like an R.
So you got the first name right. I want to share my inspection sticker experience and a dealership experience. A couple years ago, I went to get my 2020 car inspected. There was a computer glitch that prevented my car from passing emissions. I was confused because my car was only 3 years old. I had to drive to Nashua to my dealership to get the software update. I then drove back to the inspection station to get the inspection sticker. The entire process cost me about 6 hours of driving time alone, and there was nothing unsafe about my car because of the software glitch. There was no issue with the emission system. Another experience I had with my dealership was much worse. I took my car in because and this dealership does inspections as well. I took my car in because the rearview mirror had detached from the windshield. The dealership told me it couldn't be fixed and I would need a new windshield, which cost almost $2,000. I took it to my local repair shop and they said they could fix it easily, but there was a piece missing that was there when I brought it to the dealership. I let the dealership know that they had a piece I needed to fix the mirror and they denied it, which is impossible because the mirror was attached right before all this happened. I kept calling them and talking to supervisors with no resolution. They started hanging up on me when I called. Thankfully, Granite State Glass in Laconia fixed it for free They saved me almost $2,000 in hours of driving back and forth from Meredith to Nashua. I'm thankful there are still honest people out there. I was lucky to find one at Granite State Glass. I felt very taken advantage of by the dealership, and this whole thing cost me a lot of anguish. So, someone said last week that this is rare, that people get taken advantage of. I mean, I don't think it's rare. I think both shops probably are good, but you just never know. And I do think this stuff happens all the time. I regularly bring my car in for oil changes and to get maintenance done, and my shop fully checks out my car. I would never drive a car that I thought even might be unsafe, because I care about my safety and I care about the safety of other people around me. And so I would just say that I also wasn't planning to testify on this. I was just asked last minute, and I happen to have these stories. So I think a lot of people also have similar stories. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, appreciate it. Eric Olson. Good morning.
Morning. Hi. Eric from Litchfield. I had to go to 3 different shops before anyone would even look at my Tesla. And the shop that did seemed visibly uncomfortable working on it or handling it. I think it's a little bit absurd to require that I purchase a service from someone who doesn't want to provide it to me and can deny that service. Mechanics hate my car and are almost universally unqualified to do any real work to it. And this was before my car became politically controversial. I want to say one other thing about EVs, because somebody testified last week that because they're so heavy, they need brakes more often, and this is some kind of an additional danger. I have one of the longest range battery packs, largest battery packs on the market, and my car is about average weight for a regular vehicle on the road. Every EV comes with regenerative braking. You hardly ever use the brakes. People are reporting them lasting 100, 150,000 miles. My brake pads will probably run out in like the 2030s. These are not a real problem. And then I want to add some perspective on the safety and the people like to talk about it like it's a risk to life. I'm skeptical that this saves us any damage, but let's think about what we're requiring people to do. We do 1 million inspections plus a year. Let's say very conservatively 1 million. Say people drive 20 miles each way. We have on average 1.8 crashes per million miles driven. That's 72 crashes every year just from driving to and from inspections. Let's say it takes 2 hours on average out of your day, obviously more if you get in a car accident. That's about 450 years of people's time we waste every year doing car inspections. I think those lives should count for something.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. All right. Alex Lemp signed up, but didn't indicate you wanted to speak. I don't know. Okay. Okay, come on up.
All right, how are you doing? My name is Alex Lemp from Newport. My testimony was about my father. Has a story like everybody else. 3 different places he brought his truck. He got 3 different opinions, all worth over $2,000, and none of them overlapped. So I think what it comes down to, it seems like after sitting here for just a little bit, is when you have something that's mandated by the government, that there's going to be no trust in there. And also that when it seems like the standard is not the standard for the inspections. So if that gets fixed and it's not mandated by force of the government, then there may be more trust. And people will probably still want to do their inspections once that trust is back. And that's kind of all I have to say.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions? All right, thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Derek Verbrugge, I think that's how you say it, signed up. I don't know if you want to speak. Thinking not. Okay, Daniel Koenig.
What's the time on here? I stepped in late.
3 minutes.
3 minutes is perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. That's what I was
I
aiming
bet
for.
you can do it.
Thank you. I'm representing myself and my family. I'm a resident of Brookline. It's just an honor to speak to you. I wish Senator Murphy was here. I was going to say I really appreciate his high grade on New Hampshire Liberty Alliance. I apologize for not being dressed more appropriately, but I can't take multiple days off week over week to come here to attend hearings. I came right from work, and I'm going right back to work. I was disappointed to find the first session last week entirely dominated by what you might call special interests. I don't mean that pejoratively. I just mean those who have a special interest in this, above and beyond the average citizen, for whom attendance was work for them. I hope the committee will take into account that they're witnessing the public choice problem in action here, that those with concentrated benefits have an oversized incentive to come and testify, while the regular citizens stand to gain or lose only very little, have a much less incentive. I wish to speak to some of the testimony we heard last week. I was very surprised to hear so many speakers confused seemingly about the nature of the bill as they testified in favor of vehicle inspections per se, on a bill that would not eliminate vehicle inspections, but would simply release them into the realm of the free market with all of its attendant innovations and improvements to cost and quality. Last week's testimony reminded me of a passage from Bastiat, which is bureaucracy, this is summarized, like the ancient ideas from which it springs, confuses the distinction between government and society. As a result of this, every time we object to a thing being done by government, the bureaucrats conclude that we object to its being done at all. We disapprove of state education, then the bureaucrats say we are opposed to any education. We object to a state religion, the bureaucrats say we want no religion at all. We object to a state-enforced equality, then they say that we are against equality, and so on. It is as if the bureaucrats were to accuse us of not wanting persons to eat because we do not want the state to raise grain. Beside this, virtually every special interest speaker last week testified to the many dangerous vehicles on the road. A tow truck driver showed photos of cars that he had found on scenes which had crashed due to bald tires and so on, and testified, and I quote, "These are the unsafe cars we are sharing the road with every day." A vehicle inspector testified that he found multiple life-threatening issues every single week on the cars he was inspecting. We heard from an EMT who testified about regularly walking up to the scene of an accident and seeing upside-down vehicles with bald tires, bad brakes, and so on. Seemingly the only thing all these testimonies agreed on is that the roads are filled with dangerous vehicles, that we're surrounded by them daily. It's a constant, ever-present threat. I was so surprised to hear this from the opposition to this bill, because it sounded to me like an unconditional agreement that the current vehicle inspection program does not actually do what we all want it to do, that despite the program, our roads are yet filled with unsafe vehicles. Perhaps intuitively grasping the inherent conflict of their testimony, virtually all of the opponents of the bill also proposed changes to current inspection law. It's funny to me that when such changes have been proposed in the past, the same special interest people are in here almost always and almost universally in opposition to them. I was born and raised in a northern state that doesn't mandate vehicle inspections, a northern border state. The solution in the state I came from was that the market came up with is that they do inspections when you bring your car in for an oil change. They do them for free. That's 3 to 5 times a year if you're driving 15,000 miles a year, which gives you plenty of time to kind of see problems as they're developing and work with your, your car shop to address and maintain your car in a safe way.
We're at 3 minutes, so if you could wrap.
Perfect. Please OTP this bill, and let's let the free market get to work. Thank you.
Well, you hit it darn close. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Daniel Koenig.
That was me.
Oh, that's you. I'm sorry. Leah Wolskup.
Good morning.
Good
Leah
morning.
Walchko from Manchester. Sorry, I didn't watch last week's hearing, so there's some things that I'm not really even understanding that you guys are saying here today about money. But let me just, okay. Either it's true, like our intuition would tell us it is, that these mandatory yearly inspections keep us safe, or it isn't. And sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So when I saw this scam flyer, I thought, how can it be a scam? That doesn't even make any sense. So I started to look into it a little bit. And I know that, statistics are just as good as the ones that put them together. But what I am seeing is that there is no evidence that the states that have this inspection requirement are safer, have less fatalities and less crashes. So if it is the case that the science actually proves that, counterintuitive as it is not keeping us safer on the roads to have this scheme in place, then this entire thing, that should be the end of our discussion. It shouldn't really matter. If somehow the state has found a way to make money off this, I missed that part. I thought fees could not be higher than what it was cost to deliver the piece of paper. I thought that was the difference between a fee and a tax. If somehow through a back door the state has found a way to rake money from the people of this state, and they're not being honest, they're not telling us that they tax us somehow, that's not right. I had a Chevy Malibu. It would not pass because of a light that would come on, and they couldn't figure it out. And I'm not a reckless person. I make sure my cars are safe. And you know how I got around it? Is that they told me to unplug my battery, and then I had to drive it a certain number of miles because they could see how many miles it had been driven when it's plugged in again, and the rules required it to be driven a certain number of miles. But the light didn't come on until maybe 20 miles beyond that. So I just had to find a way to drive it the exact right number. That can't possibly be what people want us to have to do. My neighbor is a landscaper. He just had to take money out of his 401k to try to get his truck to pass inspection. There's nothing wrong with the safety of it because they gave him a 60-day sticker, because it's a light that they can't figure out. And he keeps having to put more and more money into that truck so that he can earn a living. That's not right. And it's already past the 60 days and they can't figure out what's wrong with it. So I guess now he's just an outlaw. Can you imagine that? This little old dude who just wants to go and mow people's lawns. Now he's an outlaw. So it's regressive. It hits poor people the hardest. It's wrong. It's not the $25 or the $40. It's the money that it takes to fix whatever it is that you're told by somebody who's trying to sell you something needs to be done.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Any questions?
Oh, and I just had an answer for your question. You asked about the insurance. Like, why do states that don't have this have to have car insurance? And you said nobody can answer the question. I think it's because it's unrelated. They have nothing to do one with another. Okay. And so there is no answer for it. It's not the same issue.
All right. Thank you again. All right, Steve Zemanek. All right. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Steve Zemanek. I'm from Manchester. I'll try to keep this down to 3 minutes. I could rant about this for hours, but so I basically think New Hampshire's inspection sticker program has at least become a complete scam. And I say this as somebody who knows cars really well, try to maintain my cars really well. I've kind of done everything from rebuilding an engine to rebuilding a transmission and rebuilding suspensions. And so there's not really a task that I'm afraid of doing as a do-it-yourselfer. But I think the biggest problem is one of the big problems is the rules some of the rules have nothing to do with safety, or they're vague and subject to interpretation. For example, I'll see people that will get a failure for a tiny crack in their taillight. And the other problem is there's very little consistency among inspection stations. If you go on your local Facebook pages, you'll see a frequent question in local Facebook groups is, where should I go for an inspection sticker? Because it actually matters, because if you go to the wrong place, they might fail you for a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And you'll see people say, oh, go, you shouldn't, or if someone complains about an inspection problem, they say, oh, you shouldn't have gone to that repair shop, you should have gone to the other repair shop. There have been previous legislative efforts to deal with some of the problems with New Hampshire's inspection program that have failed to correct the problems. For example, in 2018, there was House Bill 1517, which was supposed to codify the rust rules so that basically cosmetic rust wouldn't fail inspection, and people are still failing for inspection on cosmetic rust issues. And I think that the inspection program could be fixed without legislative need, because most of the rules are administrative rules. So, and one thing I'd really love to see is on WMURs, if there was a big bust where they, yanked some licenses for inspection stations if they were doing a sting operation and caught some, unnecessary repairs. So, and whenever I do hear about a problem with inspection stations getting in trouble, it's usually for being too lenient. I don't think the inspection program keeps the unsafe cars off the road. I see cars with expired inspection stickers all the time, and I don't think that means that, oh, that's a death trap, because I see people fail for really stupid things sometimes that can cost a lot of money. I think the failure rate I heard was 13%, but that's only the failures that get reported. A lot of inspection stations will put it on their own multi-point inspection software and not actually report it to the state. I grew up in Massachusetts, and the inspection program there, it would be like a 10-minute thing. You didn't need an appointment, in and out. It was like a NASCAR pit stop. And I've always driven old trucks, and I used to work for a dealership, and I finally bought a almost brand new truck that was certified pre-owned, had warranty and everything. And I said, oh, finally, I won't have a hassle with inspection program this year. Because everything's under warranty. Well, the service advisor calls me and says, I need new front brakes on this truck that I just bought. That when I bought it, they told me had new brakes all the way around. And I got a quote for $923, and I still have the sheet from that inspection. Then when I pushed back, they realized their mistake, and they put a sticker on it. But if I didn't know, if I didn't know any better, and this was your average grandma, I don't know what they would have probably put. But they would have dropped $923 on an unnecessary brake job. So, and I think that's about. Oh, and the thing with the inspection stickers and insurance. As far as I know, New Hampshire is the only state that doesn't mandate auto liability insurance. And the one thing that I would think is, if it was a free market solution, and it was actually important, I'm sure all the auto insurance companies would mandate that their customers go and get inspections done through the private sector, not in those states that don't require inspection stickers. So,
all right, thank you. Are there any questions? All right, appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Is there anyone else who maybe didn't sign up to speak on House Bill 649 who would like to speak? All right, we'll go to the front row first, then the second row, and then over here. Please come forward. 3 minutes, please.
Okay, I'll be fast. And thank you for hearing me. I'd like to say the safety part goes, I don't really need to talk about it.
Yeah, could you state your name and where you're from, please?
My name's Tim Austin.
Okay.
I have an auto repair shop in Fitzwilliam. I've been in business for 45 years or so.
Thank you.
So the safety part, really, we should keep. Rusted brake lines, we live in the rust state. As far as this whole thing with cosmetic rust, the state has already changed that. If it's a unibody vehicle, most cars are, it cannot have rotted out rocker panels. If it's a full frame truck, then the rocker panels aren't structural and it can pass with rust. So that's just exaggerated. So the biggest problem with the check engine light is people don't understand what it represents. So the mission of the computer in every car is to maintain an air-fuel ratio of 14.7 to 1 at all times. That's what we need. It's the best way to burn the fuel so we reduce pollution. So when a check engine light comes on, what happens? Well, now the computer is trying to override that check engine light and say, okay, well, we can't get the data from the oxygen sensor, for example. So we're not 100% sure if the air-fuel ratio is correct. So this is an environmental issue. So we eliminate it. Let's just say we eliminate it. So now your catalytic converter goes bad, so we're just back to driving cars in the 60s again without catalytic converters. If I I have a CO detector on my toolbox. If I pull a car in the shop that's pre-catalytic converter, it immediately goes right up to 86 or higher and starts beeping. If I pull a car in that's a late model car with a catalytic converter and shut the door and run it for 15 minutes, it doesn't even go past 0. We need that. We need emissions. We need to care about our environment. I can't say that there aren't some disreputable mechanics, but all my customers are like friends to me, and we've got a lot of them. And we bring them in. I can show you pictures of our vehicles that didn't pass and why, and we bring them in and show them. I would like to think a lot of shops are the same way. I think some of the chains push to sell stuff, but to eliminate the state inspection eliminates our caring for our environment here in New Hampshire, which is why most of us live here, because it's beautiful here. And so I just think it's ridiculous. We really should consider what we are. Everyone should understand what that check engine light represents and what the computer does for our car. Remember the old cars with a choke? You pump it 3 times in the morning, you cross your fingers, hope it starts, it's burning black oil. That's
I
what,
remember.
You know, I mean, that was terrible. And so they're so much better now. But the check engine light matters. If it tells you this sensor's bad, the sensor's bad. Sometimes there's a glitch in the computer and it can be difficult to fix. Like some of these people said, you read the data on it and you try the part, it didn't fix it. Now it looks like we threw money at it that we did. It's part of the industry. You know, surgeons suffer the same thing, you know, we're in the same industry. So that I really want to make sure we're making a good decision on this.
Well, you'll appreciate my first car was a Rambler with 3 on the tree.
Yeah, I had a Rambler. Those 3 on the trees, second year.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, any questions?
Yeah.
Senator McHugh, please briefly.
I'll be brief, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Do you think 2 years is often enough? Every 2 years?
That would probably work, certainly for the emissions part. That would be an answer. The safety part's a whole other issue. I mean, we drive vehicles that are unsafe. And it's not just for people who do it. I mean, we had a truck in last week. I said I have some pictures. A very nice guy. He's a body man, intelligent guy. He's got an 11,000-pound Chevy truck with boxes on the back of it. And every single brake line was rotted out on it. And I brought him in and showed him, and he just laughed. I said, who put the sticker on it? He laughed again, probably where he works, did it. And then a few days later, and I got the text. He says, you jinxed me. I popped a brake line and a fuel line. Well, every single line is rotted underneath the truck. Yeah. So I did end up fixing the car. And yeah, it was expensive. It was $2,400. It took 3 days to put all those lines in that truck. This is what we face every day. And so some of these people think that we're just taking advantage of them. All of my customers, I will have to say, understand, because we educate them and bring them in and show them. Okay. But know what that check engine light represents, and know that means that we don't care about the environment. We're just going to pollute. Okay. If that's where we want to go, maybe that's where we're going to go. But I'm in firm disagreement with it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I would ask you, please, and the other 2 folks who are speaking, please sign in the back so we have your name for the record.
Great.
So please take care of that on your way out.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Sir, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Lawrence Arts. I live in Nashua. I used to be a former state representative. I was on the Transportation Committee many, many years ago, and I also have an inspection license myself, and I support getting rid of this inspection bill. I wanted to tell you the story here. A guy I know, a friend of mine, he calls me up and, because he bought a 2004 Hyundai down in North Carolina. And it was a car, it's over 20 years old. Well, it was 20 years old at the time, so it's exempt from the emissions portion anyway. But he brought it to this inspection station up in Tuftonboro and said that, oh, you can't have any you can't have any lights on, warning lights on the dashboard. So we're not going to pass you. Then he says both drive axles need to be replaced and then it would have needed tires and struts and all that stuff. I told him, bring the car down to me and I'll take a look at it. And I went over there and I looked at it, and he didn't need. There was one rip on an inner CV boot, leaking a little bit of grease, but that wasn't that bad. There was nothing wrong with the tie rod and with the drive shaft. As far as the check engine light is concerned, it's exempt, so that's not even an issue. And tires were fine, and the alignment was good, because he was also saying that, he needed struts too. I bounced the car, everything looked good. I said, the only thing you may want to do, polish up the headlights a little bit. And then I sent him over to a friend of mine to go get his inspection sticker. So an hour later, he came back, he got his sticker, and that was that. So, there are garages and the guy's in his 70s, and he was a former mechanic himself. And, they figured, I'll just take advantage of him because he's kind of an easygoing kind of a guy, and like that. He's like that. And the other thing too is that the check engine light, the auto manufacturers are weaponizing the check engine light in a big way. I was looking up at all the error codes, the P codes that list for so-called emission failures, and I went through it. There's so many of them now. They're using hexadecimal digits. They got a P257D, which is a hood latch switch. And there were like a half a dozen other codes, like I think it was C, D, E, F, and related to, either a disconnected switch, it's one that's not responding, whatever. And if there's any kind of a fault, it turns the check engine light on. What does that have to do with emissions? And a P04CB, fuel fill door. That's the little door that you remotely open up to put your gas in. What does that have to do with emissions? There's a cap behind it. And so, I've been opposed to the emission program now for 30 years now, back in the mid 90s when they were debating this back in the Jeb Bradley days. And so, yeah, I support getting rid of this inspection program.
Okay.
And I also sent testimony by email to you. And so you should have received it. I don't know if you did or not, but that's okay.
Yes.
I don't want to keep repeating myself, because the stories that I'm hearing behind me are true. I hear the same things over and over again.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Please sign in in the back.
I signed in on a sheet. It was near the bottom.
I
don't know
missed
if
you then somehow.
maybe you missed me on there, but I remember signing in.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, it's fine. Pardon?
Any questions? No?
No questions. Thank you. Sir, you're the last speaker this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, for allowing me to testify today. My name is Jeremy Olson, and I live in Manchester. And I've been driving in this state for 18 years, and I have 4 separate stories of issues with the inspection system here. One of the simpler ones is I had a car where the digital odometer maxed out at 300,000 miles. This apparently causes an inspection failure. This is apparently considered to be a safety thing. I had to go and have a $500 digital odometer replaced just so they could plug it into the computer, because the computer won't allow the same number as the previous year, apparently. I bought another car that was a police vehicle from a state auction. When I bought it, it had a valid inspection sticker on it that was still a few months out. I have to get a new inspection sticker after I register it. I'm assuming it's going to pass because it looked like it was fine. Then they tell me that all sorts of internal changes that the police made to the car actually aren't legal. Broken door locks, broken window rollers, things like that. I have to have this fixed. I looked through the rules. There's no exemptions for police cars to be able to have that done to them, but apparently that's an inspection failure when a civilian owns the car. This one here is an interesting one because it's actually a auto dealer running a scam in the opposite direction. What they did here actually decreases safety. I go to buy a car, used car, they put a sticker on it. The sticker was good for like 6 months until my birthday. Everything looked fine with the car. 2 weeks after I buy the car, the entire exhaust system breaks in half right behind the catalytic converter. I take it to my own mechanic and I ask him, do you think that's 2 weeks worth of rust there? And he's like, you gotta be kidding me, that's more like 2 years worth of rust there. They put a valid sticker on this car when I bought it. So I bring it back to them, I have a copy of the rust rules, SASC 3200 with me, I tell them I know what they're doing there. They go and replace the entire exhaust system for free because they know that I was gonna get them in trouble if I complained about that. And I think that's another important point to bring up. Yes, there are very few fraud complaints that go to Troop G. That's because the vast majority of people don't bother or don't even know about it. I read the whole statute and the rules, and I was unaware that you could complain to Troop G about this. So I think whoever's complaining to Troop G is a massive undercount of what's really going on out there. The last straw that I had was during the COVID debacle. I brought my car in, it failed for tires, it was a legitimate failure. I go to buy tires, it takes 8 weeks for the tires to come in because of the supply problems they were having. I bring my car back, the inspector says he wants to charge me for a reinspection again. I tell him there's nothing in the law that says they can do that. He says, well, that's right, there's nothing in the law that says they can't. And he has a policy of 30 days. If you come back after that, he'll charge you. And he literally told me he could charge me for a reinspection an hour later if he wanted to, and he can set whatever rates he wants, stuff like that. That was my last straw with this program. If this program is going to exist, it at least needs to be due process rights of people to appeal these things. It needs to be regulation on them being able to get away with stuff like that. One final story, a friend of mine, he had a Volkswagen TDI, nothing wrong with the car. The check engine light comes on. He can't figure out what's wrong with it. It turns out to be some kind of sensory things. He spent thousands of dollars on this car trying to get it working, finally decided the car had like basically been totaled by the amount of money he put into it. He had a perfectly drivable car, had to sell it to somebody in Connecticut where they don't have inspections. So he got rid of a perfectly usable car. And this is the kind of stuff that everybody out there is putting up with. I've collected dozens of these stories working with these other people trying to get this going to oppose this. So I obviously support the bill, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone who came in today. I'm going to close the public hearing on House Bill 649, and we will take up House Bill 406 in just a moment. All right, if I could get folks to have a seat. We have more work to do this morning. All right, and I'm going to open the hearing on House Bill 406. And is Representative Bay with us? Yes, good morning. Please, if folks could hold it down just a little bit, I'd appreciate it. Goodness. All right, Representative, good morning. Please turn on your microphone. Welcome.
Good morning, Senators. My name is Luz Bay, and I have the privilege of representing Stratford County District 21, which includes Dover wards 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. I'm here as a primary sponsor for HB 406-FN. a bill aimed at addressing the formation of fraudulent businesses. This bill comes at the request of the Secretary of State, but more importantly, it arises from real concerns voiced by hardworking Granite Staters. I am a psychometrician and not a business person, and one might wonder why I was approached by the Secretary of State's office to sponsor this bill. So here goes. On August 26, 2024, one of my constituents reached out to me in fear. She and two of her friends own and run a very popular Asian restaurant in Dover. She recently discovered something alarming. Another business had registered with a name eerily similar to hers, and even using her restaurant's exact address. She was not alone, she told me. In Portsmouth, another Asian restaurant faced the same unsettling situation. So there were two fraudulent businesses, both registered on the same day, were using the addresses of the established restaurants. For the business in Portsmouth, at that time, two bank accounts have already been opened in the restaurants, in the new restaurant's name, I was told. Imagine for a moment the fear and uncertainty this business owners felt. They had worked tirelessly to build their reputation, to create something meaningful for themselves and their communities. And this could be jeopardized in an instant by forces beyond their control. They suspected they were being targeted, and they were scared. When they turned to the Secretary of State's office for help, they were troubled that there did not seem to be an established process to report this kind of fraud. Unsure of whether their businesses, their livelihoods, and their financial security were at risk, they actually called me. I then met with Corporations Director Connolly at the Secretary of State's office. We discussed that to dissolve the business, the fraudulent business, the process would be, first, the Secretary of State's office will write a letter to the new business at the indicated business address. Given that there's no business with that name at that address, then the unopened letter will be returned to sender. When the letter is returned, the business will then be marked not in good standing at the Secretary of State's office. Thus, when it's not in good standing, it'll not be able to make transactions such as open bank accounts and so on, so forth. So on October 14th, a demand letter was sent to the newly created company. The letter was received in Dover October 24th and was indeed returned to sender. On November 12th, Director Conley confirmed that the letter was indeed returned to his office and that he then manually changed the status of the new business to not in good standing. He also issued a 60-day warning letter, and without a response, the business will be administratively dissolved on or after January 8, 2025. So that's a timeline from August to January. And it was dissolved. As an aside, during that time, between August and November, my constituent received credit cards. Credit cards arrived in their place of business in the name of the new business. They got scared again. She reported it to the Dover police, but they were not able to do anything as no crime has been committed. To me, the intention of this bill is to prevent business owners like my constituents from experiencing the fear of losing what they have worked hard for. This is why HB 406-FN is necessary. It provides a mechanism for addressing fraudulent registrations and protecting legitimate business owners from having their hard-earned success exploited. Hopefully, with this bill, the small business owners do not have to endure the kind of fear and uncertainty my constituents felt. I urge you to support HB 406-FN so that small business owners across our state can have the peace of mind they deserve.
Okay.
Thank you, Senators.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any questions? Senator Fenton.
Representative, thank you for being here and taking my question. Just looking at the bill as introduced versus what the House amended it. In your opinion, does this new amended version adequately protect those businesses you were just talking about?
Well, I think if you take the experience of my constituent, when she discovered that there was a business with close to the name of her restaurant, I think the current version, the amended version, provides for a procedure. I think they can file an affidavit that they're about what they found. But I don't know if it thoroughly avoids for the perpetrator to actually register the business with using their address, the business address. I believe the original bill said something about to use a business address, they have to show that they own the place. They have to have proof that they own the place or that they have a lease on the place. So I believe the amended version does not require that anymore. So the perpetrator, I think, could still have filed the business. I think the only provision that could stop that person would be the address, the mailing address that the person used is like a UPS store with the mailbox that's referred to as a suite or something. I think the Secretary of State's office does have a registry of those, so they can check that if an address like that was used, it would have stopped. But if they use a different type of address as they register, I think the business might still have been registered.
Thank you. Senator Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. Was your constituent's business registered with the Secretary of State?
Yes.
So it was a very, very similar name.
Yes. And it looks like the MO of this person who registered the new name is the two cases that I know, they're both Asian restaurants. So my constituent owns the Hong Asian Noodle Bar.
Yep.
So they registered the business as Hong Asian Cuisine. Her friend owns the restaurant in Portsmouth called Kim Lai. And the newly registered business is Kim Lai Asian Cuisine. And using the restaurant's address also.
Okay. All right. Anything further? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your introduction of your bill. Secretary of State's office is here, Ms. Hennessy and Mr. Connolly. Good morning, gentle people.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate Committee. Good to see all of you. My name is Erin Hennessy, and I am the Deputy Secretary of State. And with me today is Tom Connolly, who is our division leader of our Corporations Division. We're happy to answer any questions you have. I will give you a very small background and let Tom take over because he is our expert in the office. But in general, New Hampshire has seen an uptick in these fraudulent business filings. And the intent of this legislation, which was written by Tom, was to prevent these businesses or these fraudulent businesses from taking advantage of New Hampshire businesses. And we believe the language in this bill does give us some tools to properly react. And I'll let Tom discuss further and answer your questions.
Thank you, Erin. As Representative Bay indicated, the motivation for this bill came from the impact of a couple of different filings that occurred with businesses in the Seacoast area, where what we're seeing it's really happening at a national level, but again, starting to see it more and more in New Hampshire, are two types of business fraud. One called synthetic entities business fraud, where basically people try to create a business using some information that's real and some information that's not real to create a business entity that appears to be something that it is not. I mentioned the case here where using the same address, being the same type of business with very similar names. One was to look at that, someone was to use that business as an application, say for a credit card or to purchase cell phones or any other things of that nature. It would make it appear that it's an existing business that has a credit history and that sort of thing. So that's becoming a more common event, as well as another issue that we deal with is called company hijacking, where people will go and find a business that has not filed their annual report. They'll go online and they'll put their names in as the principals of the business and then submit the filing so it appears that they are the members or managers, for example, of an LLC. And then again, when the bank goes to open a bank account and they look and see the information on the public record, they take that on its face value in many cases, and then they are allowed use that as an opportunity to either make an application for credit. We remember one situation of a company who found out that they had purchased a pickup truck because when the payment book arrived at their business, someone had been financed a truck by going online and changing the names of the individuals who were the presidents and directors and listing themselves as officers. So in both of those cases, there's nothing in the statute that currently provides us with a remedy for those sorts of situations. So what we have asked here for is to give us the authority to identify filings either by complaint or by other means that we may find if information that's been included on an application for registration is fraudulent, that we can remove those filings from the record in a more expeditious way. As Representative Bay indicated right now, when we discovered the issue in Portsmouth, the only remedy that I had in terms of taking any action against that business was to find out if they're meeting any of the requirements of the statute. And one was, did you maintain a registered office in the state? So we sent the registered letter to the registered office. It came back undeliverable, so we were to deem that company was in default. We indicated they were not in good standing, and then by statute, they have 60 days to correct that. So we sent another warning letter to give them another 60 days, and then we were able to administratively dissolve the business. Of course, what we find is that in most cases, the damage has already been done, right? If someone's going to create these businesses, as Representative Bay indicated, within a couple of weeks, that they received the victim business received bank statements. The bank accounts have been opened up at Chase Bank, and then the credit cards were received a couple of weeks later. We want to, this will give us, when we do identify a business where this is occurring, we'll be able to take more expeditious action. We won't have to wait the 60-day period to administratively dissolve the business. And then is from the perspective of trying to prevent these type of filings from occurring, part of the strategy that we're using in the Secretary of State's office, which we had tried to include some language in the original version that gave us some direct authority to do this, but utilizing the terms of conditions to register your business with our online service, we're looking for ways to be able to analyze the data that we receive. In this case here, we found out these businesses that were Representative Bay mentioned, we were able to tie back to that an account where over the course of a year, there were 8 business entities that were created that had similar names, and we're able to go through and again, take those same actions. So we were able to create a fraud profile that we could use with our systems. We're currently ready now to submit put out a RFP to replace our current existing online system, and we intend to take advantage of all the additional technology that's available to us right now in terms of vendors that can provide us with verifications to determine whether it's someone who's actually registering a business. They can actually identify the computer or the phone they're using and see if it's been tied to any other fraudulent filings and then prevent them from doing so. So we think the bill is a helpful tool to get us to the next step, and we hope that the committee will find it favorably. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Senator Reardon, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you just got to a place where I hope you were going. My experience with registering business at the Secretary of State's office, if I have Running Brook in the title for a cooperative I was doing, and there was anything Running Brook that had anything to do with real estate, I was always denied that name. So I'm amazed that 2 restaurants, both the same industry with such similar names, made it by the first blush there. Are you explaining towards the end of your testimony there that you have software that's going to start comparing phone numbers, comparing addresses, comparing names in the way a person used to do it, standing at
Yeah,
the desk?
well, yes, thank you. The situation that you're explaining here in terms of this, back in 2016, the legislature changed the statutory language for determining business availability. It used to be that if a name was likely to be mistaken or confused for, it was very broad standards that allowed us to reject filings where we thought the name could potentially be confused. The statute was changed in 2016 to a standard called making the names legally distinguishable. And basically what that means is if you can put the word names side by side and distinguish them to be different by an additional word or by the order of the word and so forth, that the name is acceptable for filing. So we're now accepting filings with businesses with much similar names than we would have prior to that time.
Can I follow up?
You may follow up, yes.
And does that scenario pass your test?
Yes, in both of these cases, these names are legally distinguishable from each other. Yes, so the names were not accepted in error or they were, but still every name still is reviewed by an individual employee. There's nothing is being reviewed or approved by machine. But again, what we're looking for is, like I said, in a case like this, we could be able to employ a program that would allow us to, when we do names that meet certain criteria like this, either by business type or by keywords, that we can then do further review on those names, determine if there's a possibility that they could be part of an attempt to defraud.
One last one, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Would you have a problem with us bringing back that pre-2000?
That would be a position that I'd probably reach out to the Secretary of State and ask his personal opinion on, but I can tell you that nationally, most states have gotten away from the confusingly similar standard and have gone to the distinguishable standard. So it's part of a trend nationally, where basically the view of the bar and so forth is that it's not the role of the Secretary of State to decide who gets to use a name, that's considered to be a civil matter. It could be based on, on if they have a federal trademark, if we don't check against federal marks, that sort of thing, that as long as we're creating a business entity, all we're doing is giving them the right to have an entity with that name, not to actually go out and trade in the business world utilizing that name. That would be still based on common law or on treated as a civil matter. So it would to go back to the old standard could potentially slow down how quickly we continue to process new filings. But again, there's a balance there, right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate your testimony. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on House Bill 406? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on House Bill 406 and we will open 499 in just a moment. All right, I'm going to open the hearing on House Bill 499, and I would like to welcome the prime sponsor, Representative Hunt. I owe you a phone call, Mr. Hunt. I've not forgotten you. For some reason yesterday, I got 28 phone calls in an hour on a bill we heard about this morning, so that's the reason.
I fully understand how.
I know you do.
Time of
So good
essence.
morning, sir. Welcome.
But for the record, I'm Representative John Hunt, representing the town of Ringe. I here bring forward we would call the housekeeping measure for the insurance department. I would say one of the salient items about this is that we're streamlining fees and getting rid of unnecessary fees. So the insurance department was ahead of the curve when it comes to trying to get the state of New Hampshire more efficient without waiting to have some committee come down and tell them they should be doing this, that you have it in this legislation.
Okay.
And with that, I will leave to the insurance department to get into the other details of this bill.
That was easy. Any brief questions to the representative? All right. Thank you, sir. We'll see you again in a few minutes. Mr. Betancourt, Ms. Heaton, Ms. Doherty. You've signed up together, so I assume you want to come up together, but if not.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is DJ Betancourt. I have the pleasure of serving as the Commissioner of the New Hampshire Insurance Department. I'm joined here at the table by Michelle Heaton, who leads our Life and Health Division, and Emily Doherty, who is our Property and Casualty Legal Counsel. So over the past several years, the department has undertaken a thorough review of all of the insurance-related statutes. And what we've sought to do is to modernize those statutes, to clean them up, to update language, to make sure that they comport with all of the other changes that have taken place to the statutes in which our department lives and operates in, to again make sure that it's modernized and it's efficient and effective. And so the proposal before you today is a continuation of that effort. So I can go through all of the details if you'd like, or we can go to questions, whatever you'd like to do.
It appears
Let's go through the
maybe we could
details.
go to questions.
No, let's go through the details.
You have a question? You want detail?
Yeah.
All right. Let's
Sure.
go.
All right, so going through the bill, and I don't have the page number specifically, but I do have the sections. So with respect to section 1, that is an amendment that cleans up language related to the work that the department and the state have done over the past several years around the No Surprises Act, which you may be aware is a prohibition on balance billing in most instances. The department has been writing rules for implementing the bill, which was Senate Bill 173, that again passed last year. So we've been writing the rules to implement that bill, and during the drafting realized that we needed to clean up some language within the statute to align with the federal No Surprises Act, as our individual dispute resolution process mirrors what they have done nationally. That was one of the agreements that we made in reaching a compromise around Senate Bill 173, was that our independent dispute resolution process would mirror the federal one. So we had to make a couple of changes to make sure that we lived up to that commitment. Michelle, anything to add on that particular change? Okay. In section 2, that pertains to the notification for the discontinuance of lines of business. So some of you may be aware of what took place last fall as it pertained to Medicare Advantage. There were a number of carriers who decided to either withdraw from writing Medicare Advantage business or to dramatically change the offerings that they had offered the previous year heading into this year. And then there was one carrier, for one reason or another, who decided that they were not going to write in Stratford County anymore. Not sure who aggravated them out in Stratford County, but they weren't writing in that county anymore. But as those consumer calls were coming in, because Medicare Advantage is not a product that we at the department oversee or regulate, that is within the domain of the federal government, it was a really confusing situation. And we were really struggling for a period of time to adequately advise consumers as to what was going on and what their options were. And so what we brought forward was a notification bill that says to the carriers, if you're going to dramatically change your offerings or if you're going to withdraw from a line of business, you've got to notify us. It made sense to us, given that we were doing that notification requirement for Medicare Advantage carriers, to have that apply across the board. So whether it is a property casualty product or a health product, this notification requirement will now be in effect. So that is section 2. And again, I'll pause at this point. Anything to add, Michelle?
Just to clarify, this part in this technical bill is just that piece for casualty companies. The Medicare Advantage one is actually a separate bill, but they work in together so that if anyone's withdrawing from a market, that they notify the department so we can keep track of it.
Sections 3 and 4 is a pure cleanup operation for language related to unadmitted surplus lines of insurance. I don't know if any of you are particularly interested in surplus lines companies, but if you are, we can certainly.
If I could interrupt, Senator Pugh has a question.
Yeah, so maybe we can move it along faster if we just ask about what's being changed.
Sure.
So why do we need to include the unadmitted surplus lines? I guess that was the question.
Sure.
On this one, from my standpoint.
The department does regulate unlimited insurance, the unlimited surplus lines companies. This was just to clarify that for those companies that they need to use New Hampshire licensed adjusters, and there's other clarifications, just clarifying that the department's investigative statute, RSA 400A16, would also apply to those companies. The department already does have investigative authority over those companies. It's just to further clarify that 400A16 would also apply to those companies.
Thank you. Does anybody object to we skip to section 9 then?
Not at all.
So just it's a couple of words then until we get to section 9. Why the adjustment to the capital reserve?
So our financial regulation unit is in charge of taking in the information when an entity would like to form as an insurance company in New Hampshire. Presumably they'd like to domesticate here as well. So our financial regulation unit handles that. And what they have been seeing over the past several years are individuals and entities coming forward proclaiming that they'd like to form an insurance company. And when you actually look into the financials, it's not a serious proposal. And so, but they've still got to go through all of that process. So what I asked them to do was to certainly raise the threshold of what's required. So, unless you've got this amount, you're not really serious, and you got to go figure out a way to bring more money to the table if you want us to actually take you through the process. But at the same time, not setting it so high that you're creating any sort of a barrier for new entrants into the market. And so where they landed on that were the thresholds that you've seen there. So at present, it's at 800,000. We bumped that up to 3 million. That is really the lowest end of something resembling a serious proposal that the team thought was appropriate for the statute.
Is it comparable to other states? Just to help me out a little bit. I haven't tried to open one of these anywhere.
Yeah, my understanding is it's still on the lower end overall. I don't have the specific breakdown of state by state, but we have still ensured that New Hampshire is a very business-friendly state if you're looking to form a new insurance company. So like I said, I think we've struck that balance between filtering out the not serious proposals, the wishful thinking, if you will, versus, again, ensuring that we're not discouraging anybody from looking to domesticate here in New Hampshire.
Have we had anybody fail or not fail to pay claims because they didn't have the capital or I mean, it's just a matter of, like, we've had so many, I don't know, fly-by-nights, make a proposal and waste your time, and that's what you're trying to do, cut down the workload, or?
The short answer to that question is no, because our financial reg team has done such a good job of overseeing the financial health and solvency of the company such that we have not had a domestic insurance company in New Hampshire go insolvent since the early or mid-90s. Because they will get involved when their reserves or their financial metrics fall below certain thresholds, and will intervene at that point. God forbid, Senator, that we should have an insurance company go insolvent. There is the guarantee fund, which serves as that backstop to ensure that claims are still able to be paid, even if that company is in financial distress.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions for the Secretary of State, or for the Insurance Department, rather? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Appreciate you being here. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on House Bill 499? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on 499 and we will open 242 in a moment. Might be, yeah, ask them offline. Yeah. Yes. All right, I'm going to open the hearing on House Bill 242 and re-welcome Representative Hunt to tell us a story about his bill.
All right, good morning again. I'm Representative John Hunt from Town of Ringe, Cheshire 14. So, how is the best way to present this story? So we have, this goes back to our wonderful institution known as the three-tier system. And in the three-tier system, there was each tier, whether it was the manufacturer or the distributor or the retailer, each had their lane to stay in. And that has pretty much been the statute, been the policy all along, except, and I will say this happened before I was a legislator, so no one can blame me for this one, that they had invented brew pubs. And brew pubs, for the best description, I would say is a total fly in the face of the three-tier system. Everything about brew pubs is all wrong. But having said that, it was statute, it was on the books. It was a business concept that the brew pub would be brewing its own, making its own pies, in this case, making its own beer. And so that was all fine, that establishment was that. And I would say that, without naming names, that the brew pub, the original brew pub was in Portsmouth. There was another beer, and they were separate businesses. They kept themselves at arm's length, even though I think there was a husband and wife relationship there. But there was some arm's length relationship, and so that's all fine and dandy until now we have someone who has absolutely multiple restaurant locations and would very much like to have that beer that's brewed in that brew pub to be able to be distributed to them. The original bill that I had sponsored had a very simple, was that as long as it stayed within the limits, the caps of how much a brew pub could produce, then there would be no problem. However, there was some concerns, and we then came up with this amendment. This amendment, as you see, it was passed by the Senate last year, and then they seemed to attack a non-germane issue onto it, in which it was a commerce issue. So at least we were on the same page. You might be slightly familiar with this, Mr. Chairman, because I think you sponsored the bill this year.
It's a new year, Representative. It's a new year.
It's sitting on the Senate table, and hopefully that's where it will stay.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
My request that really stay, good puppy, stay over there. But in this case, we do want to solve this underlying issue that somehow got mixed up. In the end of the day, we concurred with the wrong motion. We made the wrong motion, and so unfortunately this amendment disappeared. So it's back, and it's in just like it was when it passed the Senate a year ago.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the representative? All right, seeing none. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I have some other folks who signed up, but none indicated they wanted to speak. Is there anyone here who would like to speak? Would the commission like to say a word about this?
Mr. Chairman, only if you need questions answered.
I don't know that we do. All right. No one else who would like to speak on House Bill 242? I will close the hearing on 242. And I believe our business of the day is complete. Do we have a motion to adjourn? And the second, all in favor, aye? All right, and we are done. Thank you.